A sewing lesson from Sew New York. Today's lesson will be the tailor tack. Hi, welcome to Sew New York. I'm Laura McCracken, and today I'm going to teach you how to do tailor tacks. There are 3 previous videos on my channel, all on darts. There are 3 parts, and it teaches you how to do the tailor tack in those videos as well. But this is going to be a simple version, a shorter video on just the tailor tack alone. So let me show you. Let's get started. I want to begin by showing you the 5 symbols that are for matching seams, and they're for construction detail. So there are 5 main symbols. You'll see a small circle, a larger circle sometimes, and then a triangle, a diamond shape sometimes, as well as a square. And oftentimes you'll see a very tiny mark. I just drew that one in there because for some reason it's not in the list of symbols. But there are 5 to 6 symbols, and these are used for matching your seams. They usually appear at the 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then whenever you have darts, they would be on the interior part of the pattern piece, or for example with pockets, you would see some marks that are interior on the pattern as opposed to on the seam allowance. But if you're not sure of your mark, it's always the one that's 5/8 from your seam allowance or the cutting line. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what I do. So with these symbols, some people might use chalk. Chalk doesn't last, it disappears. Some people use markers. They have pens now that disappear on your fabric. I don't suggest to use those because they don't come off of all fabric. I teach a thread marking, and it's called the tailor tack. So I'm going to show you now how to do the very simple tailor tack. And when you after you cut your pattern piece out, you would do this tailor tack that I'm going to show you wherever you see any one of these symbols on your pattern. So no matter whether you have a small circle like the ones you see here, a larger circle like the circle here, a square like that, or a triangle on the seam allowance like these few here, and then the diamond shape, which would look like this sometimes. This is less common, and then a very tiny little circle. Those are the marks, and that's kind of what they look like on your pattern. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to actually do it with the thread. This is the cutting line, and this is the mark for the size 16. So simply go in to both layers. So you're going to go through both layers and come out. You go in and out, and you want to make sure that there is something on the other side. And here you can see the stitch right there. Okay, so we've gone into the mark once. We're going to go into it again. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in and come out again right on the other side of the circle. And I've left a tail here. It's about 3 inches long. Over time, your eyes will get used to understanding the length, and I'll show you a little way to make sure you get the right length. So now I'm going to pull it out. As I pull it out, I'm going to put my finger into this loop and make the tailor tack the size, make the loop rather, excuse me, the size of my finger, okay? And there's the loop. And here's the tail. Now I need to cut it. So what am I going to do? How long do I want to make it? You want to roughly make the tail about 3 times the length of the loop. So here's 1, 2, and call that 3. And that's roughly about 3 inches. You don't want to have the loop too tiny, and you certainly don't need it too big. So that's why if you use your finger, that's a good measurement, okay? So that's the tailor tack. Now I'm going to show you what you do with it. So after you've marked all your pattern pieces, then you're going to take all the pins out. And I want to now lift the pattern piece off of the fabric. So I'm going to lift it carefully, and I'm going to watch that loop touch the paper. So as soon as that loop is close to touching the paper, great. Now I'm going to go behind here. I'm going to squeeze the pattern. I don't want to rip my pattern piece. So if I just kind of put my 2 fingers right there where the mark is, I'm just going to sort of pull it out carefully. All right. And I didn't really tear. I made a little hole in the mark, but I didn't tear the pattern piece. Okay, so now we have the tailor tack laying right here on the fabric. Now what do you do next? So this is actually a mark that you've made for both sides of the fabric, both pieces, because we always cut out two pattern pieces. One pattern always cuts out two pieces of fabric. In the case of cutting out four pieces, you should cut them separately, two and two, and do the marks separately. Okay, and the reason why we have two pattern pieces, because we have two arms, two legs, a right side and a left side, and everything should be balanced. So we're making a mark for both pieces. So now I'm going to cut the mark in half so I can separate my pattern pieces. So now if I lift the fabric till the loop touches again on the cloth, and you see how the loop is now touching, you always want to make sure you see the loop touching, and you really do want to check it. If you just open this up and don't look at the outside to see where that loop is, you could just pull the whole mark out, and that wouldn't be good. So now I'm going to cut it in half with my snips. All right, now I have two marks. And the way to know, this also helps you identify the good side of your fabric from the wrong side of your fabric. The way that I teach is I keep my good side out and the wrong side of the fabric facing each other, touching inside. And I put my pattern pieces on top of the good fabric. I like to see the outside of my fabric. So with that in mind, these marks will help you identify the good side from the wrong side. Sometimes our fabric is the same on both sides. In the case of fabric that's not, you don't have to worry about it. Short fuzzy threads right here are the inside. I have a couple students that call that the underarm hair because it's underneath, it's inside, okay? Loop side is the good side of your fabric, and the short fuzzy or the underarm hairs, what is this, those are your insides of the fabric. Good side, and then the inside. Okay guys, that's how you do a tailor's tack. Thanks. See you at the next lesson.